The Galactic Council gathered in their grand hall on Viridia Prime, a planet of tall crystal towers and calm skies. 17 different species sat in a wide circle, each under their own flag or symbol. Some had smooth skin, others had hard shells or glowing eyes. They had kept peace across the stars for hundreds of years, not by fighting, but by talking, trading, and watching each other closely. But now that peace was in danger. In the center stood High Arbiter Varel. She was tall and thin, with silver skin that caught the light like water. Her eyes were deep and dark, full of quiet power. She did not shout. She did not need to. Everyone in the room listened. "The Terrans," she said, "are moving too fast." A low sound moved through the hall. The name alone made many uneasy. Long ago, humans were seen as wild and broken, fighting among themselves, poisoning their own world, dreaming of space but never reaching it. But that was 200 years past. Now they called themselves the Terran Empire. They had joined their nations into one, rebuilt their cities from ruins, and built ships that flew faster than science said was possible. Their weapons cut through shields like knives through cloth. Their soldiers fought like they had nothing to lose. And worst of all, they never asked for permission. "They ignore our trade routes," said Goran, a large armored delegate from the Drakthar. His voice rumbled like stone grinding on stone. "They build stations in places we all agreed were neutral. They don't talk, they just take." "And yet," came a soft voice from a floating cluster of blue petals, "Lysara of the Mirathi, they have never fired first." "That is not the point," Varel said firmly. "It is not what they have done. It is what they could do. They think in days, not centuries. They act on feeling, not reason. If we let them grow unchecked, they will break everything we have built." She turned to the center of the room. A star map appeared in the air, glowing softly. A red line pulsed near the edge of known space, Sector Theta 9. "This is where they stop," she announced. "No more colonies beyond this line, no new warships, and they must allow Council inspectors on all their military ships." Silence filled the hall. Some nodded slowly, others shifted in their seats. But no one spoke against her. Fear had already made up their minds. A single message was prepared, a formal demand sealed with the Council's mark, written in 17 languages. It was sent across space on a tight, secure beam, straight to Terra Prime, the capital of the Terran Empire. It arrived in the middle of the night. During the Emperor's quiet watch, Terra Prime was nothing like Viridia Prime. There were no glowing towers or peaceful skies. The city of Nova Solis rose from the old bones of Earth, built of steel, concrete, and memory. Rain fell often, washing the grime from the buildings, but never enough to clean the past. Deep below the imperial spire, in a room made of black stone, the Emperor sat alone. He wore no crown, no fancy clothes, just a plain dark uniform with a silver badge over his heart. His face was lined not from age but from hard choices and heavy losses. He remembered when Earth burned. He had helped pull his people from the ashes. He would not let them fall again. The message appeared on the table in front of him, cold, clear, final. He read it once, then again. His face did not change. No anger showed, no fear, only stillness. The heavy doors opened behind him. Admiral Kale walked in, his boots echoing on the floor. He stopped a few steps away and stood at attention. He was a man shaped by war, broad, scarred, with eyes that held too many memories. "The Council has spoken," the Emperor said, his voice quiet but strong. Kale did not ask to see the message. He already knew. News had moved through the fleet like lightning before thunder. "They want us to bow," he said. "They want us to vanish," the Emperor corrected. "To be quiet, to obey, to be forgotten." He stood and walked to the war table where a map of human space glowed faintly. His finger pointed to a group of stars near the Theta 9 border. "They think we shout because we are weak," he said. "They do not understand. We shout because we are alive," he turned to Kale. "Send the order to all outer fleets. Activate Protocol Iron Dawn." Kale's breath caught, but only for a second. He had trained for this. They all had. Iron Dawn was not just a plan for battle. It was a vow made in Earth's darkest hour. Never again would humanity be told what to do by those who had never bled for survival. "Yes, Your Majesty," Kale said, saluting. No reply to the Council, the Emperor added. Not one word. Let them wait. Let them wonder. Let them fear the silence, Kyle nodded and left. The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. Outside, rain fell harder, tapping against the tower like distant drums. On Viridia Prime, the council waited. Hours passed. Then a full day. Still no answer came from Terra Prime. At first they thought it was a delay. Then they grew confused. Then worried. High Arbiter Varel paced the hall, her silver skin losing its shine. They must respond, she insisted. Even anger is a reply, but there was nothing. No message. No protest. No begging. Only silence stretching across the stars like empty space. Unseen in the cold dark between worlds, Terran ships powered up their engines. Hidden docks opened. Factories that had slept for years roared back to life. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots ran final checks. And far out in the frozen rings beyond Pluto, something old and secret began to wake. Something the Council never knew existed. The Terran Empire had received the ultimatum. And in their own way, they had already answered. They would not speak. They would act. And when they did, the galaxy would learn the difference between a warning and a promise. While the Galactic Council waited for a reply that never came, tension grew inside their own ranks. The silence from Terra Prime was louder than any angry message could have been. High Arbiter Varel tried to keep order, but doubt had taken root. Some delegates whispered that the Terrans were preparing for war. Others feared they had already begun it in secret. Far from the polished halls of Viridia Prime, on the ocean world of Myrath, Ambassador Relis moved quietly through the coral corridors of his home. His people were amphibious with smooth blue skin and webbed fingers, and they valued truth above power. Relis had watched the Council's meeting with growing unease. He had studied human history. He knew they were fierce, yes, but also clever and deeply loyal to their own. He did not believe they would start a war without cause, but the Council's ultimatum had given them one. Late that night, using a private channel hidden beneath layers of encryption, Relis sent a warning to Terra Prime. He did not send it to the Emperor directly, that would be too risky. Instead, he routed it through a chain of old trade relays, ending at a listening post near the Helios Rift. The message was short. Council has activated Black Veil platforms. Location Helios 7, they carry weapons meant for you. Be ready, he knew the risk. If caught, he would be stripped of rank, exiled, maybe worse. But he believed peace was worth more than pride. On the edge of human-controlled space aboard the stealth corvette Whisper, Captain Mira Voss received the message just as her ship dropped out of fold space. The Whisper was small, fast, and nearly invisible to sensors, painted in matte gray with engines that left no heat trail. Mira was young for a captain, but sharp-eyed and calm under pressure. She had lost her parents in the border skirmishes 10 years ago. She fought not for glory, but so no one else would suffer as she had. Her crew gathered in the dim command deck. Helios 7 is a ghost station, said Lieutenant Joran, her second-in-command, a wiry man with a dry sense of humor. Abandoned after the Cathari pulled out. Why would the Council leave weapons there? Because no one looks in dead places, Mira replied. That's exactly where they'd hide something dangerous. She gave the order. The Whisper changed course, slipping through asteroid fields and dead comets, its hull absorbing every stray signal. 2 days later they found it, a rusting metal skeleton orbiting a dead star, its lights long dark, its air long gone. Mira led a team of 4 in pressure suits. They docked silently, cut through a sealed hatch, and entered the station's cold belly. Inside, dust floated in the zero gravity. Wires hung like vines. But deep in the core lab, they found what they came for. A sealed vault humming with power. Inside was not a weapon, but something worse. Rows of glass tubes lined the walls, each filled with a pale blue liquid. Floating in them were strands of DNA, labeled in Council script. Mira's translator patch flickered to life. Subject, Homo sapiens. Strain, Terra Prime, lethality 98.7%. Transmission, airborne. Her blood ran cold. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a plague, designed only for humans. One breath and a whole city could fall. Get the data core, she ordered, voice tight. Joran worked fast, jacking into the station's main terminal. Files poured into their portable drive, schematics, test logs, deployment plans. The Council hadn't just built this. They had tested it. On prisoners. On volunteers who didn't know what they were signing up for. Just as Joran pulled the drive free, alarms blared. Not from the station, but from the Whisper. "Council patrol," came the comms officer's voice, sharp with panic. 3 enforcer cruisers dropping out of warp. Mira cursed. They had been expected. Or watched. "Back to the ship, now," she shouted. They ran through the dark corridors, boots clanging on metal. Behind them, docking clamps slammed shut. Someone had triggered the station's lockdown. Joran blew the nearest door with a shaped charge. They barely made it to the airlock. The Whisper launched just as the first cruiser fired. Energy beams scorched the station's hull, but the corvette was already diving into the asteroid belt, twisting through narrow gaps like a ghost. Shields flared red, hull plates screamed as debris struck. One crewman was thrown against a bulkhead and didn't get up. For 6 hours they ran. Mira pushed the engines past safe limits, weaving through magnetic storms and ice fields. The cruisers were faster but less agile. She used that. She used everything. Finally, near the edge of the Theta 9 border, the cruisers broke off. Maybe they feared human patrols. Maybe they thought the Whisper was already doomed. But the ship was still flying. Barely. Back on Terra Prime, the Emperor stood in the war room as the data core was plugged in. Screens lit up with horror. The plague. The tests. The plan to release it during peace talks if the Terrans refused to surrender. His face remained still, but his hands clenched once. Just once. Admiral Kale stood nearby, pale with rage. "They were never going to let us live," he said. "No," the Emperor replied. "They were going to erase us quietly. Make it look like a tragedy. A mistake." He turned to the window. Rain streaked the glass. Somewhere out there, Captain Voss was being treated for burns and exhaustion. Her crew was grieving, but they had brought back the truth, and the truth changed everything. But the Emperor knew something else. Something even the Council did not. Deep in the Imperial archives, buried under layers of old Earth records, was a file marked Project Echo. It spoke of ruins found beneath the ice of Europa, of symbols that matched no known language. Until now. The same symbols seen on the walls of Helios 7, the same symbols etched into the hulls of the Ghost Fleet. Someone or something had been watching long before the Council existed, and they had left a warning. The Emperor did not speak of it yet, not even to Kale, but he made a note. He would send someone to Xylos, a jungle moon far from the front lines. A young linguist named Eli Tarn had been studying alien scripts there. Maybe he could read what others could not. For now, the Empire prepared, not just for war, but for revelation. The Council thought they were dealing with a young, reckless species. They did not know humanity carried secrets older than their alliance. They did not know that silence was not weakness, it was patience. And patience, in the hands of those who had survived extinction once, was the most dangerous weapon of all. Deep in the frozen dark beyond Pluto, where sunlight was only a memory, the Ghost Fleet slept. 30 warships, black as void, rested in hidden docks carved into icy asteroids. They had not moved in over a century. Built during Earth's darkest time, the years after the third collapse, they were never meant for show. They were built for survival. Their hulls were lined with strange metal found in ruins beneath Europa. Their engines ran on power sources no scientist fully understood. And their weapons could shake space itself. No one outside the Emperor's inner circle knew they existed. Not the Council, not even most of the Terran military. They were a last resort. A secret kept so deep it had almost become myth, but now, the time for secrets was ending. Aboard the flagship Oblivion's Edge, Admiral Kale stood on the command deck, watching as the great ship woke from its long sleep. Lights flickered to life. Systems hummed. The crew, handpicked, sworn to silence, moved with quiet purpose. They had trained for this moment their whole lives, though none had ever believed it would come. "Power at 90%, reported Commander Vale, a woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. "Quantum dampeners online?" "Cloak stable," Kyle nodded. "Signal the rest of the fleet." "Full activation. No emissions. No chatter. We move like shadows." Outside, one by one, the other ships powered up. No lights, no signals. To any sensor, the region remained empty, just ice, rock, and silence. But inside, 30 crews prepared for war. While the Ghost Fleet stirred, far across the galaxy on the jungle moon of Xylos, a young man named Eli Tarn knelt in the mud, brushing dirt from a stone wall covered in strange marks. He was not a soldier. He was a linguist sent by the Imperial Archives to study old ruins found deep in the rainforest. Most thought it was a waste of time, but Eli believed every symbol held a story. The carvings here were unlike anything he had seen. They twisted and looped, sharp in some places, soft in others. They reminded him of old Terran cave paintings, but older. Much older. He had spent weeks copying them, comparing them to known alien scripts. Nothing matched. Then, 3 days ago, a secure data packet arrived from Terra Prime. It contained images from Helios 7, the Plague Lab, the Vault, and the symbols etched into its walls. Eli's hands shook when he saw them. They were the same. He worked day and night, barely sleeping. Rain poured around him. Vines curled over his shelter, but he did not notice. He cross-referenced, tested patterns, spoke the sounds aloud. And slowly the meaning came. "It's not a language," he whispered one morning, eyes wide. "It's a warning." The symbols told of a time before the Council, before humans, before even the oldest star maps. A time when many species rose and fell, because they tried to control others. The carvings showed fleets burning, worlds cracking open, silence spreading like a disease. And at the center of it all was a single line, repeated again and again. "When the many demand obedience from the one shall remind the many what fire truly is." Eli sent his findings straight to the Emperor. He did not understand the full weight of what he had uncovered, but the Emperor did. Back on Terra Prime, the Emperor read Eli's report in the quiet hours before dawn. He walked to the war room where a model of the Ghost Fleet glowed softly. He placed his hand on the image of the Oblivion's edge. "They think we are just another young race," he said to no one. "They do not know we carry the memory of those who came before us." The Council's Grand Armada was gathering near Theta 9. 1,000 ships, cruisers, carriers, destroyers formed a wall of steel and fire. They believed the Terrans would meet them there if they fought at all. They believed they held all the cards. They did not know the Ghost Fleet was already moving. Using folded space routes no one else could navigate, the black ships slipped past the front lines. Their quantum dampeners bent light and signal around them. They did not head for the battle zone. They went deeper, toward the heart of the Council. Viridia Prime, Myrath, Drakthar Prime, the homeworlds. Admiral Kale stood at the helm of the Oblivion's edge, staring at the star map. His orders were clear: do not attack. Not yet, show them what we can do. Make them understand. On Xylos, Eli packed his notes, heart pounding. He did not know what was coming, but he felt it in the air, the same tension before a storm. Birds had stopped singing. The wind had gone still. On Terra Prime, the Emperor watched the sky through a clear dome. Rain had stopped. The clouds parted. For the first time in weeks, stars were visible, and somewhere out there, 30 silent ships sailed through the dark, carrying not just weapons, but a message written in fire and time. The Council had demanded obedience. Humanity would reply with memory. And memory, when awakened, does not ask for permission. It simply acts. The Council's Grand Armada floated in perfect formation near the Theta 9 gate, a wall of metal and light stretching across space. 1,000 ships, sleek cruisers, massive carriers, and swift destroyers hung in silence waiting. High Arbiter Varel stood on the command deck of the flagship Unity's Will, her silver skin pale under the cold glow of the bridge lights. She had given the Terrans one last chance. Now she expected them to beg, to fight, or to flee. Anything but this endless quiet. But Terra Prime sent nothing. No signal, no fleet, no word at all. "Are they hiding?" asked Goran, his deep voice rough with impatience. "Or are they already gone?" Varel did not answer. She stared at the star map, her fingers tight around the railing. Something felt wrong. The silence was too complete. Even their long-range sensors showed empty space where human patrols should have been. It was as if the Terrans had vanished from the galaxy. Then, without warning, everything went dark. First, the outer surveillance satellites blinked out, one by one, like candles snuffed by an unseen hand. Then the relay stations near the border fell silent. Within minutes, the entire hypernet, the web of communication that linked the Council's worlds, collapsed. Quantum-entangled comms failed. Emergency beacons went dead. Even the internal ship-to-ship channels crackled with static. "What is happening?" Lysara's voice trembled over the last working channel. "I don't know." Varel whispered. On the bridge of the Unity's will, screens flickered and died. Navigation systems froze. The star map vanished. For the first time in centuries, the Council's Grand Armada was blind. Far away, deep in human space, Admiral Kale watched from the bridge of the Oblivion's edge. Around him, the Ghost Fleet held position, cloaked and silent. They had not fired a single shot. They had not needed to. Using resonance dampeners reverse-engineered from the ancient ruins, they had sent out a pulse, a wave that did not destroy, but silenced. It disrupted quantum fields, scrambled and tangled particles, and severed every link in the Council's communication chain. The Armada was now cut off from its homeworlds, from its supply lines, from its own command structure. They were alone. Back on Terra Prime, the Emperor received confirmation. "The net is down," said a young officer, eyes wide with awe. "They can't talk to each other. They can't call for help." The Emperor nodded. "Good. Let them feel what it is to be isolated. Let them understand what it means to be truly alone." Meanwhile, on the jungle moon of Xylos, Eli Tarn felt the change in the air. The birds had not sung in hours. The wind had stopped. Even the insects were quiet. He looked up at the sky through the thick canopy. Something was happening out there, something huge. He did not know about the Ghost Fleet, he did not know about the Silence Pulse, but he remembered the carvings. "When the many demand obedience from the one," he whispered. The next part was coming. On Viridia Prime, panic spread through the council chambers. Delegates shouted over dead comms. Some tried to send physical messengers, small courier ships, but they vanished the moment they left orbit. No wreckage, no signals. Just gone. High Arbiter Varel finally broke her silence. She ordered the Armada to hold position. "Do not advance. Do not retreat. Wait." But waiting was the worst punishment of all. Hours passed. Then a full day. Still no word from Terra Prime. Still no way to contact home. Rumors spread among the crews. Some said the Terrans had invented a new kind of weapon. Others whispered that humanity had made a pact with something older, something hidden in the dark between stars. Then, a single transmission broke through the static. It was not encrypted, not hidden. It played on every frequency the Council used. Even the emergency bands, the private channels, the old backup systems they thought were secure. The voice was calm, measured, human. "You gave us an ultimatum," it said. "We gave you a lesson. Stand down, or learn what happens when humanity stops holding back." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. No name, no title. Just those words echoing through the void like a heartbeat. On the Unity's will, Varel sank into her chair. Her hands shook. She had expected defiance. She had prepared for war. But this quiet power, this control, was something else entirely. The Terrans had not attacked. They had not even shown themselves. And yet they had taken everything: sight, sound, connection. They had made the mighty council feel small. She looked at Goran. His usual anger was gone, replaced by something colder: fear. "What do we do?" he asked, voice low. Varel closed her eyes. For the first time, she wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. Back on Terra Prime, the Emperor stood alone in the war room. Rain had started again, tapping softly against the tower. He knew the message had been heard. He also knew it would not be enough for some. The Council was proud. They might still choose war, but now they would choose it knowing the truth. Humanity was not just another species to be managed. They were survivors. They were thinkers, and they remembered. In the Kuiper Belt, the Ghost Fleet remained hidden, engines idling, weapons ready but not armed. They were not there to destroy. They were there to remind. And on Xylos, Eli Tarn packed his notes once more. He did not know what came next, but he felt it in his bones. The storm was about to break. The silence would end, and when it did, the stars themselves would bear witness. For now, the galaxy held its breath, and in that breath the Terran Empire waited, not with fear, but with certainty, because they knew what fire truly was. The Council was broken, not by weapons but by silence. Their Grand Armada floated near Theta 9, blind and cut off from home. Their leaders argued in hushed, frantic voices over failing comms. Some wanted to charge forward, to fight an enemy they could not see. Others begged to retreat to save what they could. High Arbiter Varel sat in her command chair, her silver skin dull with exhaustion. She had demanded obedience. Instead, she had been handed a mirror, and in it, she saw only her own fear. Then, just as hope began to fade, a new signal pierced the void. It came from Helios 7, the abandoned station where Captain Mira Voss had found the plague. The data core she had stolen had been more than just a warning. Hidden inside its code was a sleeper program, placed there by a human scientist who had worked on the station years ago. Now triggered by the Ghost Fleet's resonance pulse, it woke up. Across every council ship, every command console, every personal device, even the sealed emergency systems, a single message appeared. You chose extinction over coexistence. We choose survival over submission. The words burned in every language the council used. They could not delete it. They could not block it. It simply was. Before anyone could react, space itself seemed to tear open, not with fire, not with noise, but with light. From the darkness beyond the Armada, the Ghost Fleet emerged, not to attack, not to threaten, but to show. At the front, the Oblivion's edge glowed faintly, its black hull drinking the starlight. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge, calm and steady. He gave a single order: fire one round. Empty space. Maximum resonance. A cannon on the ship's bow hummed to life. Energy coiled, twisted, then released, not as a beam but as a ripple. It moved slowly, silently, like a stone dropped in a pond. When it reached a patch of empty space near the council's flank, something impossible happened. The ripple unfolded reality itself. Hidden there, cloaked by the council's best stealth tech, were 3 dreadnoughts, massive warships meant to strike from the shadows. As the resonance wave passed through them, their shields flickered and died. Their cloaking fields collapsed like glass shattering. For the first time, the council saw their own secret weapons, exposed, powerless, floating like dead fish. Gasps filled the bridges of the Armada. Even Goran went pale. They had thought they held the advantage. They had been wrong. On Terra Prime, the Emperor watched the feed from the Ghost Fleet. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply nodded. They needed to see, he said quietly. Not our strength. Our mercy. Because the Terrans had not fired on the dreadnoughts. They had not destroyed them. They had only revealed them. A warning! A choice. Back at the Armada, Varel finally understood. The Terrans could have wiped them out. They could have unleashed the Ghost Fleet, cut supply lines, poisoned worlds with their own plague turned against them. But they had not. They had shown power and then held back. That was more terrifying than any attack. She opened a channel, her voice shaking but clear. This is High Arbiter Varel of the Galactic Council. We withdraw our ultimatum. We ask for no terms. We only ask, do not strike. The words hung in the air. Pride died in that moment. But something else was born. Respect. The reply came not from a general, not from a fleet commander, but from the Emperor himself. His face appeared on every screen, calm and weary, eyes holding centuries of pain and resolve. We do not seek to rule you, he said. We do not want your worlds, your tech, or your titles. We only ask one thing. Never again try to command humanity. We will trade with you, talk with you, even fight beside you if the need is just. But we will never kneel, he paused. Remember that. When you next consider giving orders to Earth. The transmission ended. The Ghost Fleet vanished as quietly as it had come, folding back into the dark. On Xylos, Eli Tarn looked up at the sky. The birds began to sing again. The wind returned, he smiled. The warning had been heard. The fire had been shown, but not used. Captain Mira Voss, recovering in a med bay on Terra Prime, heard the news over the ship's comm. She closed her eyes and whispered, They remembered. Admiral Kyle ordered the Ghost Fleet back to the Kuiper Belt. Their work was done. For now. And on Viridia Prime, the Council gathered once more, but this time not in pride, but in humility. They spoke of new treaties, of shared knowledge, of listening, not commanding. The galaxy would never be the same, because the Terran Empire had not won with guns or ships. They had won with memory, with silence, and with the simple, unshakable truth that some things, like freedom, like dignity, are not given. They are claimed, and when humanity speaks, the stars themselves lean in to listen.